The other day I was searching the web for content ideas, as any creator would, and I stumbled across the leaked photos for Avengers Doomsday. Now there's an argument to be made on whether some of these images are legit, but that's not what this video is about. I want to talk about a particular image that stood out the most. The image of what looks to be a Black Panther. Seeing this image made me think, is Marvel planning to bring back T'Challa, an alternate version of T'Challa, or is this a flashback of a Black Panther from the past? It also made me think about how Marvel missed the opportunity to recast T'Challa following Chadwick Boseman's passing. So let's talk about it. Before we talk about Marvel's decision not to recast the character of T'Challa, let's discuss what led to the character getting to the big screen. Also, I must mention this video will have somewhat of a history lesson for the character of Black Panther, just to provide some context. If you don't already know, Black Panther made his debut in comics back in the summer of 1966, in an issue of a Fantastic Four comic. Prior to his debut, the character that we know as Black Panther was completely different, before finally having the appearance many fans have come to know. According to a 2005 interview that comic book legend Stan Lee had with Alter Ego magazine, Lee and Kirby wanted to call him Cold Tiger, in reference to the post-colonial African nations. The costume was also going to be different. He'd have a brightly colored costume with black and yellow stripes and a red and black cape. The most radical departure would have been the decision to reveal his face. The design would have looked something like this. Fortunately for everyone involved, the team ultimately decided and agreed on a complete character redesign, and we got the Black Panther we all know and love. Over the years, following his intro into comics, T'Challa would appear in other issues headlining his own comic book runs and even alongside the Avengers. His story grew, so did the popularity of the character. Now let's fast forward a few decades, to the early 90s. Actor Wesley Snipes was a household name during this time, having starred in movies like New Jack City, White Man Can't Jump,
It's pretty. It's so pretty.
and Demolition Man.
I've been dreaming about killing you for 40 years.
The actor drew an intrigue to the character of Black Panther, so the only reasonable thing to do during this time was to purchase the rights to the character, in hopes of bringing him to the big screen. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Snipes would explain that he had a vision of portraying the character in live action, and even bringing the fictional African nation of Wakanda to life, in order to show its vibrant and rich culture. So what happened? And why didn't this movie ever get made? Well, it really comes down to a few things. Script rewrites, uncertainty of what story would be told, and the limitations of CG during that time. We also have to keep in mind Marvel didn't have the backing of Disney, and their competitors at Warner Bros. Were already dominating the superhero live action scene with popular characters like Superman and Batman. Unfortunately, after countless meetings and changes on where to take the character, all talks of making a movie stalled. Fortunately, Snipes didn't lose his passion to bring a black character to the big screen, because in '98 we would get what most people consider the first mainstream Marvel movie, Blade. By the way, seeing as the idea to bring Black Panther to the big screen is what ultimately led Blade being released, and the success of that film is what allowed Marvel films that followed to thrive, I think it's fair to say if Blade is the spark that helped the MCU thrive so much during the 2010s, Black Panther and the idea of making that movie is like the match. But I digress.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
In 2005, 3 years before the MCU would launch, Marvel announced that it would be focusing on 10 Marvel films. Among these 10 films would be Black Panther. Unfortunately for the character, Marvel would pivot in a different direction, deciding to start their first phase off with Iron Man. While this move by Marvel would be a great choice in retrospect, it also meant that Black Panther would be halted once again. It wasn't all bad though, because in 2014 the film was officially announced with director Ryan Coogler signing on to helm the project. In that same year, Marvel would also reach out to Chadwick Boseman to play in the starring role, first making an appearance in Civil War, and then star in his own film. This was a really good sign for the character. Black Panther would finally pick up some momentum, but there was one more roadblock. You see, Marvel didn't have the rights to all their characters, one of the most important ones being Spider-Man. Sony, having owned the rights to this character, meant that Marvel couldn't just use him in any of their films. The good news was that Sony was willing to draw up a deal that led to the appearance of Spider-Man in Civil War and the release of Spider-Man Homecoming. This would also mean that Black Panther's original release for 2017 would shift to February of 2018. Finally, we get the movie that took almost 3 decades to get to the big screen. Since this time for Marvel was what many would say was their prime, it's no reason why Black Panther saw box office success, grossing more than $1.3 billion worldwide. Unfortunately, good things just don't last forever, because while the success of Black Panther would obviously greenlight a sequel, 2020 would bring more heartbreaking news. With plans for a sequel, it was evident that not having the leading actor would shift the direction of the film. One of the glaring questions for the character of Black Panther was whether to scrap the plans for the movie or recast the character of T'Challa. Seeing as the script was already written, canceling the project was off the table. So the only thing to decide was what to do with T'Challa. Kevin Feige stated in an interview that Boseman left behind a legacy that deserved to be honored.
Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is opening up about not recasting the role of T'Challa in the Black Panther sequel. Feige says the late Chadwick Boseman needed to be honored, not replaced, in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Feige told Empire, "It just felt like it was much too soon to recast. Stan Lee always said that Marvel represents the world outside your window." He went on to say, "The world is still processing the loss of Chad, and Ryan Coogler poured that into the story."
And rather than recasting him, the film would focus on other characters like Shuri and Namor. As a fan of these characters and most of the movies in the MCU, I completely understand the decision not to recast the character. Choosing to use Wakanda Forever to remember Chadwick and T'Challa was very honorable. However, I just don't entirely agree with the decision. I'm actually a part of the small group of fans that believe T'Challa's story should have continued beyond the first Black Panther movie. At the risk of this video being too long, I won't discuss what the initial plot was for Wakanda Forever. If you're interested to know what the story would have been about, check out the channel Bullet and Blockbusters. He does a great job of breaking down the story, as well as additional details for what was expected. I will say that while deciding to kill off T'Challa helped to bring other characters to the forefront of the franchise, I believe the film suffered because no matter how hard you try, you just can't have a Black Panther film without Black Panther. Not recasting left the door open for so many potential Black Panther storylines. Keep in mind, T'Challa is the first mainstream black superhero in comics. He is famous for fighting the Fantastic Four, leading the Avengers, his many run-ins with Ulysses Claw and Namor. There was just so much they could have done with the character. I really thought after the end of the MCU's original Big Three, Black Panther would headline the new phases and introduce a new Big Three into the MCU. The decision against recasting even reflected in Wakanda Forever. I avoided that movie for years, mainly because it was hard to watch a movie that didn't include the Black Panther. Now before you say that Black Panther was in the movie, no, I'm not talking about Shuri. No shade to the character, but considering that by the time Black Panther hit theaters in 2018, the character of Shuri was just a little over a decade old. It seemed a bit premature to put her in the role of Black Panther. Wakanda Forever's lack of success is a big part of why the MCU has not seen many box office hits since Avengers Endgame. There have been reports that Marvel is planning to recast T'Challa in the MCU, but right now this is all just rumors and speculation. Do I think they will recast T'Challa? I hope so, but I don't think they will, and narratively it just wouldn't make any sense. That brings me back to this image. Who do I think this is? Not the actor, but what version of Black Panther are we looking at? Well, I think it's either a variant of T'Challa from the multiverse or a flashback of T'Chanda, the grandfather of T'Challa. The costume that we see in this picture looks like something previous generations of Black Panthers would wear. From the sash, the cape, and the classic Black Panther collar, it gives more of a retro appeal. I don't think this character will play a larger role in the MCU or Avengers Doomsday, but rather serve as a plot point to demonstrate how vast Marvel is portraying the multiverse to be. Honestly, I hope I'm wrong. I really would like to see the original Black Panther back in the MCU, and I'm interested to see how Marvel can make that happen. I think since the end of the Infinity Saga, Marvel has gotten spoiled with the multiverse storylines, justifying certain stories with the idea that anything is possible as long as there is a multiverse. It all starts to get complicated over time, and even translates differently when you have multiple versions of the same character in the MCU. But that's a video for another day. So what do you guys think? I want to hear from you. Which version of Black Panther are we looking at? And do you think the character will play a larger role in Avengers Doomsday, or even end up being in the movie at all? Also, do you agree with Marvel's decision to not recast T'Challa? Let me know in the comments. If you made it this far, comment the real Black Panther below. Do me a huge favor and like the video if you like it, and even if you didn't like it, hit the like button anyway.
Y'all quit playing. Quit playing.
Seriously, I appreciate all the support. I'm trying to get to the point where I can do this full time, and you all are helping me get closer and closer to that goal. With that being said, thank you. Keep believing, keep breathing, and keep pushing peace. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Oh, remember to watch the rest of my videos all the way through. Got to get that engagement up. All right, I'm gone.